Ken Mbata. Ray Ken Mbata is a broadcast journalist, and he's also the author of the book I already mentioned to you. Why the name? You get to find out from Ray. Welcome, Ray.
It's a pleasure having you.
Yes, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure joining me.
Yeah, so you can call him Ray, or you can call him Ray Ray. You look good, Ray.
Thank you very much, and you look smashing.
Thank you. I am so eager to find out why the name Perceptual Predestination on this book, and yes, that's going to be my very first question to you, Ray. How did you come about the name Perceptual Predestination?
Perceptual predestination intones the ability God, creator of all things, has put in his creation and the primary creation of his man, I mean humans.
Sounds like the Bible language, man.
Yes. He put in us the ability that differentiates and that distinguishes us from other creations, mostly animals.
Okay.
The ability to be able to foresee the future, even from the present. The ability to perceive, although not seeing with your eyes, but led by the Spirit, you are able to perceive what will happen in the future. The future is what I mean by predestination. Stuff that you don't have control over, but will happen either or either. It's not within the powers of humans, but it is within the humans to know, but not to be able to change the course of what is going to happen. That is predestination. A perceptual predestination means the ability God the Creator has given to me or perceive what will happen in the future.
But not necessarily to change it, but just to know what's going to happen in the future.
Only the Creator
can change it. Okay. So let's delve into the book just a little bit. The book is it's actually a poetic work, and it's divided into two. We have the satires of Inglory and the dark hope of the luminous. You might get to hear words you haven't seen in the dictionary. That's why we have the author right here with us. He will give you all of the explanations that you need. Looking at chapter 1, we have this book is divided into two parts, which are already said, and we have from chapter 1 to chapter 6. And chapter 1 is exposing the innate murderous tendencies of man and his cruel dominion over his fellow man. And then we have chapter 2, which is highlighting the troubles and core problem of get to find out more about that as we discuss the poems for that. And then on chapter 3, we have it highlighting violent man to be superhumans, and in order to possess supernatural powers, over their fellow humans on earth. And then we have chapter 4 talking about the continual saga and instead of revealing weaknesses and besides confessions of the violent man. And chapter 5, it uncovers a more enlightened Africa. So just like to the future and portraying that in some of the poems we have in this book. And then on chapter 6, it's revealing the hope, revealing the light, rest, love, and promise on the arrow of finding happiness in any situation. I have my favorite poem on that part of it. But now let's go straight to my next question for my guest, Ray. What's the inspiration behind these poems we have in this book?
Actually, it is the intention of man to try to manipulate events happening around him in order for him to be assured of what his future will be like. I, as a human too, being on earth, being in Africa, being in Nigeria, I saw it as a duty to be able to what God has given to me, to perceive nature, to perceive the earth, and look into the status quo of the earth and see where I place the earth. And not just me, and also every other human being that exists on earth here. And what role do we play in making sure that earth is as orderly as it is? Even within the confines of the laws of God. Because there are people that don't believe that God has positioned his laws in a way that he should exist within the laws. And there are those that came in to abide by the laws that God has given. In that point, from that perspective, I decided that I will look into the earth and every creation by God and see where I place in between what God has positioned of this interview. You will be able to understand why I wrote Perceptual Predestination. It's not just in the cover of the book. The book is very beautiful. The cover is nice, but the content reveals the intent I have in creating this book.
Sounds very personal.
Yes, it's personal.
And would it be okay to say it's a Christian poem? Will it have Christian poems in it?
I would say that I am a Christian, but I did not write a Christian book.
Okay.
I wrote a book of convictions,
okay,
using poetry as a language of delivery.
All right.
In my convictions, I will also show my leanings, my ideologies, and where I believe in. And most of it based on the fact that I was born in a Christian home and I attended Christian organizations.
I'm a Christian.
I am a Christian by choice.
Okay. Not just that. Okay, let's go out of that. Let us start by discussing the structure of the book. So your portrayal of societal issues and human nature is very vivid in this poems. So let's very first part, the satires of inglory. So just the domination. I'd like you to elaborate on that things in the poems that are in the first part.
There are circumstances a man has found himself in that can make man to think that he is God on earth.
Okay.
There are men that don't believe that there is a God. There are men that don't believe that there is a creator. They believe that they are the embodiment of creation and creator. And I tried my possible best using poetry as a language of delivery to elaborate the journeys of those men. I'm saying men as humans, men and women. I try to elaborate the journeys that those men that believe that they are gods on earth, they are God the creator on earth, how far they went and how much the conviction proved to be true or false. And at the end of that, many of them fell short of what their expectations are. The fact that you look at yourself in the mirror and see how wonderfully you are made doesn't mean you came out like that. You were made by something. You were made by someone. And many people don't believe that. So I try to use poetry to encompass the frailty of man. And yes, because man is frail.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about that part where you said men who feel like they are God on earth.
Yes.
So a lot of people's mind will just go awry.
All right.
So I'd like you to channel that, like narrow it. When you say men who feel like they're on earth, I'd like you to give like an example of what exactly you mean.
I'll go into some particular sins.
Okay, that would be better.
And the sin of greed is a man thinking that he can take whatever he wants with precautions. That is everything belongs to me. Even yours belongs to me. No repercussion. You see the crime or the sin of murder. I can kill anyone I want.
Nothing will happen.
And nothing will happen.
But it sounds like people who have so much power in their hands.
They think they have so much power in their hands.
Okay.
The essence of this book is to show how frail they are. They think
how powerless they are at the end of the day.
They are powerless. They are powerless.
Okay, so you show their power, show the position, and then show the fact that at the end of the day you're just human.
Definitely.
You're not God.
As human as every other person.
Okay, so that's what the first part talks about.
The first part talks about the journey of the frailty of man who thinks that he is God.
Yeah.
God in heaven. And the second part unravels the enlightenment that comes when that frailty via very little things of life. It doesn't have to be a thunderstrike coming from heaven.
Little things like what?
Like a nightmare. There is no one on earth bigger than a nightmare.
Reminds me of the king who had a dream who wanted everybody to interpret. Was that what you had in mind when you wrote that?
No, but that is an example too from a Bible story. But I have seen witness men that have, because of a little nightmare, fallen short of what they thought that they were. Because a nightmare unravels how weak the human nature is, and find out giving up the glory of God. That I am not God, I am human. So that is the sexual predestination, seeing what frailty of a man could be even before it. So we today will see dictators in different countries ruling their country, and no one can stop them.
Or question them.
Just like Gaddafi, he was caught underground, living like a rat. Same thing with Saddam Hussein. They were all disgraced, thinking they were gods, but they are not gods. I don't mean to disparage their names, but what is, what is not, and what will be, will be.
I must say your use of language is indeed helpful. I mean, I went through the book and I saw how you could explain something that looks really lengthy in just few lines, like 5 lines or 4 lines. The poems are short, but they have so much power and lots of messages. In just one poem, we can get so much. But I'm particularly intrigued by the biblical references that you had. Even with your explanation, we can see that in your explanation. Not talk of the poet. There's even a part of the book, I think, page 12, where he actually wrote a Bible verse to the book. That's page 12. What was that Bible verse again, Ray?
Isaiah.
Okay, so let's see. Isaiah. Okay, that's in the preface actually. He had that in the preface. Okay, so I went through that Bible passage and it was talking about knowing the end from the beginning, and hearing
Isaiah
your explanation,
46,
verse 10, and hearing your explanation, you already tallies. But I also want to know what with the reference, biblical reference, talked about Noah's son. You had the Bible passage in the preface. Tell us more about you bringing in the Bible to those poems.
I would appreciate if you help me read out the Bible passage first of all, to see if it correlates with what we are doing.
Isaiah talks about the end from the beginning, and your explanation already has that. But let's go to it.
Isaiah 46,
verse 10. It says, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done. Saying, my counsel says, and I will do all my pleasure. I feel like it's a presentation. All right, yes. Wait, where did that come from?
Title of the book. I didn't write the title of the book when the book was completed.
Okay.
I didn't know what the title of the book would be.
Oh wow.
At the end of the book, I now discovered that there is a Bible verse, because I'm a Bible student. I've read the Bible and
back and forth.
Yes.
Wow.
As an intellectual exercise and as a spiritual exercise.
Okay.
And so it was easy for me to pinpoint the Bible verse that correlated with my book. Don't forget that my using the Bible is just a Muslim wrote the book, Christian mind. So that is where the concept behind the book comes from. God is saying in Isaiah, I have seen the end even before the beginning. It's so power that makes us look at God with so much awesome. God is not God. If before the creation of the earth, he already knew what the end of it would be. Before the introduction of any creation, God already knows what the end would be. And that is powerful. And every other human has been trying to imitate the power of God. That before I set forth, I'm going on a journey. I want to go to Ahoda. Before I get to Ahoda, this is what is going to happen. That is powerful.
Before I get back.
Yes. I'm sure I'm not going to have an accident. I'm very sure what I'm going for, I'm going to see. But God has given us the power to be able to perceive, predestined. What we can't change, we can perceive. And what we can perceive, we can understand. And that is the concept behind this book. It's that powerful for me. It's not just the book of
you must have perceived the outcome of the book even while you were writing it.
And I think I also perceived that we were talking today.
That's so beautiful. If you perceived, I'll be very red.
I am telling you that.
Okay. I perceived that.
You are already bearing my brightest colors.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, in peaceful glory.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Ray. You haven't bringing that in. Okay, if you are just joining us, it's Atlantic Television Network Book World. And we have been talking about this particular book that's written by Ray Ken Mbata. I'm talking about the perceptual destination. He has told us about some of the words that we found in the book, which we haven't found in the dictionary. He has given us his exact explanation to these words and where they are coming from, and the idea behind the title of the book. Now we have some more questions for Ray to help us understand this amazing masterpiece better. Ray, thank you once again for joining us. Okay, so the book addresses themes of power, which you already mentioned. We have corruption found in the book. We have the human condition. And one thing I like about the poems in this book is that it addresses you at any class you are in the society. It talked about people who are up there in position of power. He also talked about the people who are down there, whichever way you want to mention it. He made examples with different. Okay, let me not go into all of that. When you get to you get to understand all of that better. But Ray, the themes I could find in this book: power, corruption, and the human condition. How do you hope your readers to engage with these themes? Basically, the question in simple terms is, what effect do you want these to have on your reader?
The effect I intend to pass through to my readers is that, in as much as the world is complicated, God has made everything as simple as possible. In as much as this book is a book of poetry, poetry has a flowery language. Poetry also helps to subsume and to minute bigger concepts as little and as common as possible. And I tried my possible best to use as layman's language I could, in as much as some heavy words come in.
They sure did.
But my intention is that this book should be accessed by anybody that would be able to read basic English language and be able to tap in from the principles that it has born within it, and also assist your life to appreciate what God gave you and use it to its maximum benefit of not just you, but also the world in return.
So what impact, positive impact, do you desire to have in your readers? Talking about action, talking about power, talking about the people who feel they are God, and then at the end of the day they are just fragile hits.
I intend to pass the message to them that there is a real God, there's a real God that created each and every one of us. in as much as He has given us little powers to do what we can. We've been able to create cars, been able to create things, mansions, to create things out of the creation of God. But let us not forget that we are not God. And God still remains God. And God, being who He is, has given us the intuition to manipulate whatever we are manipulating on earth here. We are able to send men to the moon. We are able to send men to space, even to Mars. Don't forget that God gave you the ability to do all that. Do not be like those that built the Tower of Babel. In creating a magnificent edifice, you denied the power of God Himself that gave you that intuition to do that. This book is a humility. It's a book.
It humbles you.
It humbles you. It lets you understand that God is still in charge. Either you like it or not, He is not taking permission from you. Perceptual predestination also shows that you are human. You one day die and be buried. God will never die. God will never have a burial stone. And God that even allowed you to die will also guarantee you resurrection. That is the dark hope of luminous. Luminous at this point is light. Dark hopes. You're on the ground hoping that light will shine forth at one point. And that is the hope of resurrection promised to us by the Lord Jesus Christ's resurrection from the dead.
And that's the explanation of dark hopes of luminous. What's the explanation behind satires of inglory?
Satires of inglory came about by my analysis of what Cain was trying to achieve by killing Abel.
Interesting.
Why did you kill Abel? What were you trying to change? Are you God? And when he was asked, there is your brother, he said, am I my brother's keeper? Why can't you keep he who you killed? So that is the beginning. Yes, I mean,
I get that.
He should have resurrected him and presented him. This is Abel. But he couldn't do that. And that is satires of inglory. He had performed an inglorious action. And the poems I wrote concerning Cain's fall is satires. Those are satires, and the satires revealed the vulnerability of man. But dark hopes of luminous encourages us that as Jesus Christ has died and resurrected, so shall Abel and the blood of Abel resurrect, even from the corpse of the earth. The earth cannot hold any who holds on to God, who holds on to Christ. So that correlates, not just giving you a green prospect, but also giving you a prospect of hope. That there is still God, and that nothing is infinite until God says it is.
I am really interested in which you explain this book.
Yes,
it shows that you wrote it with so much really personal with your explanation. Can you tell us what the writing process was like?
Kada, Edo State, Nigeria, and getting close to the end of my education, I wanted to analyze what was the essence of everything we were doing. All the exams, assignments, classwork, everything we were doing. And to be closer to God in particular. What we are trying to be is excellent as God is. And I started pen down some poems. And in some periods of luminous, I had some of which I did this inspiration from reading any of the book when I wrote it. And it took me a period of 6 years.
Wow, 6 years.
Yes.
So I wasn't put these poems down.
And I wasn't writing it because I was writing a book. I told you from the onset that I didn't know the name of the book until the conclusion of the book. from 2006 to 2012. I was getting down poem by poem, and found out that it's all said one story. Just as the Bible is a conglomerate of various books by various authors, but meaning one story, the story of the world. This book mirrors what was happening in the Bible. That each of the poems, independent as they are, and making sense as they are independently, but together they make one story. The hope that whatever you're passing through today, God has a better story tomorrow. That is perceived, and at the end of the last poem, that is when I got the name of the book, and that is the encapsulation of this project.
If you listen to Ray talk about this book, like I mentioned earlier, you find out that it's a bit personal. And I've spoken to various authors, and I've always heard them say, oh, when I was writing this particular book, I was in this state. You know, something was happening at that point in my life. And that inspired me to put this down in writing. I've always gotten stories and situations like that. But you'll find out more about this book after this short time out. But one break where we get to hear from, yes, we got to talk to some Nigerians about their love for literature, how often they read. Do you even read at all? How interested are you in reading books? And when you read these books, what do they do to you? After the short time out, we'll be back. Please stay with us. Word.
Live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social reports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the Fact Day, only on ATM.
I do love to read books, but mostly motivational books and books written by my pastor, Pastor David Ibame. Because it's just something that you just find words of encouragement, and especially when you're down or when you're depressed. Book like that talks. It tells more about the person's feelings also. So I love to get encouragement from books like that. It's not easy, especially when it comes to maybe I don't know. Everybody, different people likes to read novels, but if it comes to motivational books or books that preach about Christ, you find a lot of solace from those kind of books. So I encourage people to do that.
Reading book is a nice thing because the more you read book, the more you acquire more knowledge about life.
So do you read books?
Yes, of course.
You like to read books?
Yes.
You find it interesting?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Ugochukwu.
Thank you.
What advise people who do not read books at all?
I would advise each of every single human being at least once in a while to read your books.
Any book?
Any book, even Bible.
Yeah. I'll say I don't actually read them every time, sure, but I normally read novels. When I'm bored, actually, I normally read books.
I don't like reading books that much.
Why?
I'm not much of a reader. I'm more of a listener. I do audiobooks. Not really books per se, but I like just knowing more about things, like how things work, what makes a keke move, what makes a car move. I just like knowing facts. That's just what. It's not really books. But the internet, you can get basically everything from the internet. I know I'm missing a lot. I do read though, because student, I have to read. It's a must. I'm a full time. I read like how I'm supposed to. You know, reading is an habit. How much you put in it, it's it's what determines the outcome. So I'm not much of a reader. I won't say I am, but I have to read. I'm working on myself. No, 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 not throwing out today, but I review them once in a while, but not as much as I am now.
Thank you so much for staying with us on Atlantic Television Network. The program is Book World, and it's a program where we get to delve into the realms of literature. And today we are reviewing a book called Perceptual Predestination. And we have the author of this, Raymond Ken Mbata, stood right here with me. He told us a lot about the book. He has told us the idea behind the two parts of the book, because it's divided into two parts. And before we went on a short break, Raymond told us about the idea behind writing this book in his life at that time. But interest in reading books, let's also get to hear from Ray. Did writing this book come from the interest you had in reading books?
Definitely, right from my toddler ages, I always had the love for written material. I have a younger brother that came 5 years after I was born. So within that 5 years, I was the only child. Being the only child, I needed companionship. And somehow I found out in newspapers. My dad was a civil servant until he retired. And civil servants as at then like buying newspapers.
Heaps of them.
Yes. And when I come back from school, being alone at home, I see piles of newspapers and I'm alone. And when I take them out, it's flipping and looking at pages and looking at pictures, and some pictures me, and I go into them and I read the contents behind them, and somehow I get to develop like, wow, one day you're going to do something like this. Maybe it might not be a newspaper, but you're going to be able to explain some parts of what you see or what you experience to people, and people are going to appreciate the knowledge you share. So it had been on my subconscious long before I wrote the book. And this is not just the only book I've written, and this is not the only book I will write, because my intention is to pass information. It's not to show people that I know how to write. No, it is not a treatise in self-adulation or a treatise in self-adoration. No, it is being able to reach out to my fellow person. Please, this is what it is about. This is what life is about, in words and in pictures. That is why I have beautiful illustrations in the book. So if you are not the kind of person that looks at words and are enticed, when you look at a picture, you want to find out what's there.
Yeah, so that's the idea behind the pictures.
Exactly.
Because we don't always have that in poetic masterpieces.
Exactly, and I want to make poetry accessible to everybody. Poetry shouldn't be a thing for the academics. It shouldn't be a thing for the knowledgeable only. It shouldn't be a thing for the high class. It should be a thing that everybody could use to explain what parts of their life that they don't understand, or they understand and they want you to also understand.
But having a child, I was going to ask, when you said as a child you read the newspapers, having a child read the newspaper is rare.
Yeah.
The way you talked about looking at the pictures and then reading the writer's piece behind the pictures, I got to understand it better. Yeah. So did you get support from your parents at that age when you were reading, and you saw that you loved to read and you always read?
No one would not be happy seeing their children pouring through. I mean, not because daddy said or mommy said.
You're just reading on your own.
I mean,
and you're enjoying it.
I mean, it was a delight for my parents.
Wow.
Although they didn't show it as much, and I know that my parents have that way of toning down their excitement. But
okay, but you know, people always give excuses a lot to but as an adult.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking if you got that support. Because I'm not hearing an excuse here.
I decided to do what I decided to do. There's a point.
Support or no support?
I mean,
are you indirectly saying you didn't get the support?
I'm saying that I was asking for support and didn't
not
get.
Asking. As a child, you might not even know you need support, but just find your parents supporting you.
My dad must buy newspapers. I must read the newspapers. So he, in taking care of himself, also took care of me.
It was his own way of supporting you, and
Exactly.
you see that as your his way of supporting.
I mean, and it was more than enough. There are people that they not allow their kids to like
read
go
anymore.
to in India.
Okay.
And India is a place of spirituality.
Yeah.
So I was allowed to explore whatever I saw them read.
That's amazing.
And they had lots of books. They have libraries. And I still have a library of my own, a mini library. So I expanded my brains as much as I could. And at the time, I had to use the Christology and the Christian Bible. And reading the Bible, I understood everything I must have tried to read in philosophy, in Kabbalistic. I didn't care about all that anymore. The Bible was everything already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to gain insight into your creative process. And thank you so much for taking us through your writing process of this book. And you mentioned that you have other books that you have written.
Exactly.
Okay, do you have something that we should go to? Because we seem like your fans right now.
It's a pleasure. And I will try my best. Make sure that I do not lead you astray.
Thank you.
This is my first poetry book. It's a tropic destination. Before this, I had a book I wrote in my youth service days in Lagos State called New Development in Nigeria. New Face of Development in Nigeria. This is the second conceptual predestination. I also have a second, or the third book, the second poetry book called Eyes of the Night. I also have 3 other books that are ready but not yet printed and published. And I am my personal publisher, Ofunda Literary Publishing Company. Registered Nigeria of name. And I hope to come there today to present to you these other books. Some of them, let me give you just one topic. The problem with the African intelligentsia. What is the problem with all the degrees that we have in Nigeria? We have people that have multiple degrees, multiple PhDs, multiple master's degrees, and they live in squalor. What is the essence of knowledge if not to impact on your society? Why should you be the only one rich in your community if you are knowledgeable? What is the problem with the rich people in Africa? What is the problem with the university lecturers and intelligentsia and intellectuals in Africa? Do they solve any problems? Why are we still in squalor? Why are we still looked upon as a third world continent? Why do we still beg for aid? Meanwhile, you are begging for chocolate, and meanwhile the cocoa is growing in your back. That book is coming out soon.
I would love to read the book, Ray.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So, what advice do you have for young authors and aspiring poets who are looking to make their mark in the world of literature?
You should take it upon yourself. You are there to deliver people. You are not there to benefit from what people have done only. You are also there to be there. You do not need to have so much money to do this. Just look into what Get the inspiration from God and create one yourself. It might be through painting, it might be through literature, it might be through poetry, it might be through engineering, it might be in various forms and aspects. But you should not just be a consumer, you must be a producer. You must be an essence of God to humans. God should use you to reach people. God should be better than what you found it to be. Do not come here and complain about politics, complain about whatnot. You are an agent of change. If you are not changing the world is changing you. Take the step and make things happen. Do know how to make things happen. Find others that have made things happen. If you do not know who made things happen, look on to those who have put their foot in the sands of time and be an example that generations to come will look up to and say, yes, if he could do it, if she could do it, I can do it. I will do it. And I will end this speech with a poem I wrote and dedicated to Barack Obama. I do not believe I am a black man. I believe I am a human being. The black skin does not matter. I am a man. I am not a black man. The poem goes as thus. Agony of harm. I am man. One Lord. I am not black. I am a man. My complexion is dark. I am strong and I can. If I know, I learn and grow. I speak from the soul and I reap where I sow. Men of other pigmentation are abroad. Our common uniting bond is blood. Through tongues and tribes, they may differentiate, but we congregate to correlate. No one divide what God unites and cause a war to make us fight. I don't support a racist plan. I am not black. I am a man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray, for sharing that with us. That's so inspiring. You know, your passion for poetry and storytelling is truly inspiring, and I think a lot of young people out there are already inspired to go into poetry.
It's my pleasure to always be there.
So thank you once again for being an inspiration.
Thank you for listening to me.
All right, that is Ray Ken Mbata. He is the author of Perceptual Predestination, which is the book that we read today on the show. And I'm so glad to know that you are still with us. I hope you have had an amazing time. And that's where we wrapped up on this episode of Book World. Do not forget, stay connected with us on our ATN socials, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, on Twitter now X at Atlantic TV Net, just live on our website at atlanticnetwork.tv. I am Enidoye Jackson. And remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Have a good day.
Live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the world. Stay focused on the fact today.